On behalf of Akuno Sankofa Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. HOPE. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice, focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
Peace, you all. Welcome to the bi-weekly Tribe Ujima study group. I always do this presentation and just change up a few of the outreach pictures, and then we'll get started, give everybody time to come on in. And so this is for those of you who are new, this is our bi-weekly study group where we meet every second and fourth Wednesday. It's a reoccurring link, so it's the same link. And then you have our website where you can see some of our community outreach and how we engage the community. And you also can contact me at 706-957-2110 if you're trying to start any of the outreach programs. And so that's why I show some of the outreach, so you can get with, if you like that and you want to adopt that or do that in your area, you're able to take that, call me, get with me, and then we'll implement a chess club, a community garden, a community clean team. It's all about just building the structure around it. So that's the purpose of sharing that at the beginning of the meeting, so we can all be compelled to look at the outreach portion of what we have to do as well. So this is just at the garden, watering some of the watermelons that we planted, cleaning the rows a little bit, just getting everything cleaned up. And so we go out there almost every day around 7-ish and do a little something, 30 minutes to an hour or something of that nature. But this is our outdoor classroom. So we're keeping everything ready and prepared. And that's where we do a lot of our programs out here at the garden. So that's why I showed that. The ongoing work. So I wanted to bring out it's ongoing. All the times your community outreach won't always be in the public. There'll be background times where you got to do stuff and prepare, so that when you do engage the community, it'll be from a strategy standpoint, and it'll be organized. And so I just brought this picture to show the background work. Yeah, I know that it's not anybody in the photo, but this is what it takes to maintain the stage. So when they do come, everything's in place, and so this is important to look at the background side of it to see, that it's ongoing. In order to have effective outreach to the community, it has to be a lot of background work. It won't just be jumping out there, to be the background is what's more valuable. So that it's more long, you look at it from a long-term perspective rather than getting discouraged with the small things that call obstacles or weeds. We compare them to weeds at the garden. And so the weeds they start out small. You say, oh, I get it tomorrow, or I get it next week. And then next thing you know, it took over a portion of the garden, and you got to sit there and pull the weeds. It take a lot of time. But if you would just pull that one small weed out as you was going, you won't have that problem. So preparation is very critical. Pulling the weeds, getting rid of the things that serve us no good. All that is part of building this process in the community outreach. So that's why I wanted to bring that up in the way that I did. This is the bi-weekly chess program that we do at the public library. Use your public library as a space, as a location. What we did is we don't charge. So the chess program is a free program. We do it at the library where we don't have to pay anyone to use a space. Your library, you probably with your local library, you can get with them to start. It don't have to be a chess program, be a finance classroom or whatever you want to do, but with a structure where you do it every second in this or third in that. Where you do it with a system, create a schedule with the library, give it to them, and have your plan in place. That's the community outreach. It's not just going out. That is part of the community outreach, having the schedule, having a kind of a summary of what you're gonna be doing. You can wing it sometimes. You don't have to all of it don't have to be perfect and together, but have a line where you just have a concept that to follow, and do it for free. Build a community trust, because part of this is having people talk trust in a sense of filing documents. They say they talk start a trust account with the bank in a sense of just paperwork. But what with the trust we're talking about is a trust amongst our people, a constitution. And so you got to build that trust within the community. And if you let me mute, somebody gotta be muted. If you're not talking, please mute until you get ready to say something, so we won't have as many disruptions. But you want to build trust within the community, and so you don't have to charge for the program. You start doing it, build your audience, build the support, and create a budget and say how much would you like to be compensated for your time being there, and you write that into a budget after you've already proven that your system can work, that people are interested in it. You create a budget on the cost. It doesn't cost anything at the time when you're creating it. You're making up the cost in your mind. You're creating what you want out of it. And so when you do that, you want to get compensated. They say it takes 2 hours. You're doing it for 2 hours. So, but you got to drive there. You got to get the stuff put up. So you may say it take 4 hours to do this event. To do this program for the day. You may say I want to gift myself 100 notes, or I want to give myself 150 notes. And you say, okay, I'm gonna do that 4 times a week. So that's 150. That's 3. That's 600 a month times 12. You put that in your budget. You say, okay, it costs me 25,000 to run this program, from food to transportation to tournaments, getting them in tournaments, shirts, snacks, water, field trips. And so you put all this together in a budget that you make up out of the thin air. You create it out of the thin air, but what the numbers and what what you put in there flows, it makes sense. And then so you create, this is part of the outreach. You can't have effective outreach unless you do what I'm saying right now. You have to be able to create a structure around the program that you're going to implement, and then just stick to that. But you start out doing it free so people see the importance. And then you create a budget, then you go to sponsors, you have photos, you build with people, you're just building. And then you go to the banks, so to the different businesses, you go to the insurance companies, you go, look for grants. If you can look for grants. But little stuff like this, you really can do just with the banks and people in the community, getting your sponsorship group up, and you'll gain that with a consistent program, continually doing it, continue other people charity, continue doing it, then you'll get that support. You may have to start your budget out. You might say it take me 30,000, but I'm gonna start with this 5, 10,000 that somebody 5 people donated, $1,000, whatever. You got $5,000, so you operate off that budget, and you gradually increase purchasing the necessary stuff first as you snowballing it. And then it just continue to roll and roll, and then it gets larger, and that's your community outreach. That's how you in any format, whatever you're talking about, you still can do it in that format though, what I just gave you, the format. And so that's why my number is there to contact me and to call me, and then we can go in it more detail of creating the outline of the program that you're gonna use. You're not saying anything about being Moors. You can if you choose. I'm saying, but I'm just talking building with the community, a rapport, building their trust, not just a paperwork. I'm saying actually engaging with them so that when you say something to them, they hold it as value. They look forward to it because they see every Tuesday I'm over here, picking apples. That's or whatever part of the program, and you show them that they can trust in you, and then you build their trust that way through having programs and talking to them. This is small, and whether the group, and that's why I go back to agriculture. Whether the group is big, whether the group is small, I don't focus on that. I don't. When we're at the garden, you see small weeds that'll go come through the rocks, and so but in the previous years, I would say I'd do it later. It's not a big problem. It's just a few weeds that popped up. It's not a big issue, and I would go on to something else. And over time, this small issue became a big issue. It's taking over your plants. It's messing up the walkway, attracting other bugs that you don't want to have. It doesn't not appealing, doesn't look good to the how you laying the stuff out at your garden. And so then when you try to pull them, the root system of the weed have taken more hold. So not only is it harder to pull them out because now they got a deeper root in the ground, it's more time consuming rather than if I just go pick it right then. The root system is weak, it pulls straight up and you pull it from the root rather than just ripping some of the grass and then you still have the root system developing. And me just looking at it, I'm like, dang, it's better just to jump on it. Well, we got weeds in our mind. We got weeds of our life, of our routines, weeds in our thought processes. There's weeds everywhere. And so no matter how many children that I'm reaching, I don't look at it that way. Because that one seed has the potential of every tree. And so this event, you only see 4 or 5. I think another one came later. But I was good with that though. It's not about starting with 1,000 people. If you look at it like they're gonna get frustrated that you don't have 1,000 people. And so, but I was invited to this. I was invited to this event, and I was just teaching them about health and that they can use fruit and vegetables as medicine. And I have a smoothie business, and I sell smoothies, so it was engaging. It's still community outreach, and then it can begin to evolve. I can pass out information about, how the Moors, use healing, and it's like you just slow walk it and know that it's long term. Everything gonna have a connection, gonna have a deeper purpose, but it's about building that rapport with them where they look at you and say, he's somebody, not just, that's the whole point, building their trust, and then getting them on these study groups so we can exercise a political consciousness to the family of nations. It doesn't end just with me talking to them right then. That's just part of the community outreach. Still have to get them to the study groups and begin to open up their mind, learning their history. And this was with the Alpha Kappa Alphas, sorority incorporated, where they gave to me the representative. I'm just one of the representatives for Tribe Ujima, our organization, because I don't do anything by myself. It's a team effort, whether the efforts are big or small. We learned about the power of the weed just a while ago. And so no matter if the effort is big or small, it plays into the entirety of what's being done. And so the award, you'll see me holding the award, and it was the Enhance the Environment Award that was given. I was very appreciative that a bunch of our melanated unconscious Moorish women appreciated the efforts, and so that's how you build your sponsorships. Then you build your sponsorships. And you say, okay, you can create budgets around what you do, and then you'll get the funding because you manifesting it. You putting it into motion. You got a system. Everything work off structure, and then it'll come to you because it has to. This is what it's about. That's what you'll see. You'll see once you do. I just want to briefly talk about Brother Kano's YouTube platform, helping out people elevate. you can go there and subscribe today. You can do it now. And you can get the recordings. The recordings will be on here. And also, brother does a lot of other, he has a study group on Thursdays, every second and fourth Thursdays. And he does interviews on some prominent people, giving insights on various things that we may have not know that you can access though on this channel, helping our people elevate. So subscribe, share it with your friends and family. Be looking for new episodes to constantly come out. There'll be new episodes constantly coming out. And Moroccan Post Media, that's also subscribe there. You'll get a lot of information about what you're looking to know, dealing with the topics that we're talking about. So you can go there to Moroccan Post Media to gain a deeper insight into what's going on. It's a lot of free courses on there, so take advantage of it. It's a lot of time and information compiled in a couple hours, and so you can study from it, take notes, and share it with others. So today's topic is the transatlantic slave trade claim relooked. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, the transatlantic slave trade relooked. And it's April 24th, Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. on Wednesday, the day of Mercury. Are you prisoners of war in your ancestral land? Were you told the truth? Did they tell us the truth when we was growing up, the Europeans in school, about everything? And then you have this book here, White Gold, The Extraordinary Story of Thomas Pellow and Islam, 1 million white slaves. 1 million white slaves during the same time period as the transatlantic slave trade claim. So both of these stories going on at the same time. So why was one left out? You know, so we're going to go into more of this as we go forward. But before we do that, the etymology of slave, we learned about etymology in some of the previous classes, which is the study of the origin of words and its different forms. And so let's look at the etymology of slave. Somebody, well, I read this. Slave, 1300s, slave, esclave, a person who is the chattel or property of another. From Old French, esclave, 13th century, and directly from medieval Latin, sclavis, means slave. Source also of Italian, schiavo, French, esclavi, Spanish, esclavo, originally slave. So when you're doing the etymology of slave, it's directing you. You can't stop at this definition and say that you got it. It's directing you to click slave or slave. It's directing you to go to that. So we're going to look up what slave means in etymology. So now this is dealing with a group of people. It's not like a condition in the sense of you being captured anymore. It's a nationality of people. And so Slav, one of the people who inhabit most of Eastern Europe. And so you say, dang. So at first it was a condition. You got to be put into that category. But originally it dealt with a people, a nationality. Anybody want to add or got any questions about that? Want to say anything to that? Just the etymology. Just see how powerful and how you can use etymology like as a tool, like you use a shovel. You get a shovel and you go dig a hole, you put the plant, you can use it to develop things. You can use the shovel to transfer wood chips into a wheelbarrow and take it over to the wheelbarrow and dump it. So these are tools. Etymology is a tool that way you can look into the word and go back and see how the word was, why was it changed? Was it changed for a benefit Are they socially constructing meanings to usurp your sovereignty on your land so that you pay taxes and utilities and rent in your own land? Is it all of it purposeful or is it random? And so you begin to see that.
Hey, I want to add on, my apologies, but I got the J.A. Rogers 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro Complete Proof book. And going into what you're saying about the word slave with the word slave, it says the word slave was originally applied to white people. So, I mean, I'm just touching on what you're saying, but I wanted to read 2 parts from the book, if I can.
Go, please, please.
Okay, it's part 64 says, the first slaves held in the United States were not black, but white. They were Europeans, mostly British, who died like flies on slave ships across. On one voyage, 1,100 perished out of 1,500. At another, 350 out of 400. In Virginia, white servitude was for the limited period, but was sometimes extended up to life. In the West Indies, particularly, in the case of the Irish, it was for life. White people were sold in the United States up until 1826, 50 years after signing the Declaration of Independence. Andrew Johnson, president of the United States, was a runaway and was advertised in the newspaper. And then the second part, I just wanted to touch on the last part, is it said, in 1670, Virginia passed a law forbidding Negroes from buying white people. This was 51 years after the Negroes had arrived in chains, the same law that repeated in 1748. But just going into the part where it said, in 1670, Virginia passed a law forbidding Negroes to buy white slaves. And so showing you that we weren't slaves, I mean, there's some lies in our story. And it's touching on what you're saying, basically.
I appreciate that, bro. You added clarity and value to that statement, what we were talking about. So anytime, bro, interject. We need it. You got anything else?
Nah, I yield. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, please don't apologize. Don't do that. Just interject and we continue to build because that was value. We needed that. So I appreciate that. Appreciate it. So y'all see that how to use etymology. You can use that when you're looking at different words. And it gives you a background of the word. And so you start to see the power of words. You already knew they were powerful because you use them every day, but it's just bringing it to the forefront. And so this is the transatlantic slave trade claim that was taught to us when we entered the schools. You know, we were taught about the transatlantic slave trade claim, and we seen it some concepts in movies. So they pushed it all kind of ways. It wasn't just taught in school. It was also pushed in movies and cartoons and magazines, and so they used all these. But I'm just saying it because they're tools, though. I want us to be able to see things as tools rather than it's just merely something we're talking about. This is stuff that you're using to usurp people and to keep them subjugated in their own land, to keep them confused. So we're looking at tools, not just a bunch of information. The tools, or you can use them now. I can use a tool, I can take the show over and use it a lot of ways. So this is something actively being used. Go ahead, brother Sadiq Shabazz.
I was trying to figure out with this the information on the Nationality Act of 1790 explained on how they became under the white title. Would that fit into what you're talking about?
Repeat your question, brother.
Go ahead, bro.
It's not really a question. Well, it is a question. I'm asking about the Free White Person Act. Would that fit into what you're talking about right now?
As far as
explaining how they became because you said that they were the true original slaves. And
no, bro. I
The
think I
etymology
understand.
of the word. My bad. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
the
Kwasi.
words is what I'm saying from etymology. Explains that Slavic uh denotes like slaves. So I was just trying to add this part showing how they became under the Free White Person Act to get the white title is what I was trying to add in there, if that's proper.
Kono, go into Francois Binaire. Let show us it's before 1790. Show us before 1790. So go into Francois Binaire, Nouvelle Division de la Torre.
And then you also have Johann Friedrich Blumenbach with the system. No, not system man.
I want to start with Francois Binaire. He wants to give the timeline. Before 1790. He's directing us to 1790 as the start of their being called white.
Well, yeah,
So
you go
show us
back to the
that
1600s. I believe
uh,
it's 1640s, 1660s. But yeah,
1684, 1684.
1684, the Nouvelle Division de la Terre, or the New
Okay,
Division of the Earth,
got
according to
you.
the different races of species, by
Okay,
Francis Binaire.
got you. Okay, thank you.
Does that satisfy what? That
Yes,
satisfy
it
your
does,
question?
because what I was talking about is actually a later time in which you guys just explained predates what I was just talking about. Okay, thank you.
So you remember my presentation last week, part 4, we were
Yes,
talking about how, you know what I mean, they were the creators of this concept.
absolutely. Thank you.
All right, appreciate that, bro. And so the transatlantic slave trade claim during the 16th century to the 19th century, the 1500s to the 1800s. And you'll see now this is what they've showed us. And so we're gonna contrast it with other documents, treaties, and other information. We're gonna look at the timeline. I'm gonna go back and forth and put logic into this. And so you'll see here that they say that they got the 13 colonies, you got the Atlantic Ocean, and so we getting a view of it. And it's kind of interesting how they throw the 13 colonies on here as if they were there in the 1500s. But we'll continue on. The Atlantic slave trade was part of a profit. This is what they were saying. The Atlantic slave trade was part of a profitable network of commerce across the Atlantic Ocean. Goods and enslaved people were traded between Europe, Africa, and the Americas. This network is often called the triangular trade because it had 3 basic stages that roughly form the shape of a triangle when viewed on the map. And so, and these dates are actually off a little bit, but this gives you an idea of the 13 colonies in order. So the first colony you'll see in the 1600s, Virginia, 1607. And then you have New York, 1626, Massachusetts Bay, 1630. So you'll see this is the 17th century. And so remember that claim is during the 15th to the 18th century. That was during the transatlantic slave trade claim with millions. I think about 12 million. They said 12 millions of Africans was transported from Southwest Africa and other parts to South America, the Caribbeans, and North America during the 1500s through the 1800s. That's what they taught us in school. And so you'll see this is when the colonies came about. Just follow the timeline. So now I'm going to go into this treaty based on, keep that in mind, of what they taught us in school. Let me remove some on my screen. All right. And so this is coming out of now that you can go look up the treaty, but I'm saying I couldn't find the actual treaty, but I got it out of Moors and Masonry, part 1, that you'll see here on the right. And so this is an article of peace and commerce between Great Britain and Tripoli, signed at Tripoli, March 1676. And so this is still during the same time period that they taught us about the transatlantic slave trade claim, during the same time period. So let's look at some of the content within the treaty that talks about what was going on at that time. So we're gonna read a couple sections out of the treaty to see what was going on and what was being negotiated, the topics, the discussion, and then we're gonna take that information and then go back and look at, you know, the transatlantic slave trade claim. And so somebody take a few minutes out and read a couple of these articles if it's not too congested, and you can read it, read these articles for me.
That whereas a war hath lately happened between the most serene king of Great Britain and the most illustrious lords, Halil Basha, Ibram Dey, Aga, Divan, and governors of the noble city and kingdom of Tripoli in Barbary, by reason of the injuries done to the king of Great Britain and his subjects by the government of the people of Tripoli, contrary to the article of peace, we, Halil Basha, Ibram Dey, Aga Divan, and governors of the noble city and kingdom of Tripoli in Barbary do acknowledge the injuries done, and that the breach of the peace between His Most Excellent Majesty, the King of Great Britain, and us of Tripoli was committed by our subjects, for which some are banished and some fled for our justice, and for further satisfaction to His Most Excellent Majesty, for the breach of articles, we are sorry or the same, and do by these engage to set at liberty and deliver unto the Right Honorable Sir John Narborough, Knight, Admiral of His Majesty's fleet in the Mediterranean seas, all English captives residing in the city and kingdom of Tripoli and dominions thereunto belonging, without paying any ransom for them. And likewise, by setting at liberty and delivering unto the said Sir John Narborough, Knight, all other persons taken under English colors, without paying any ransom for them, and by paying $80,000 in moneys, goods, and slaves to the aforesaid Sir John Narborough, Knight. And moreover, we do engage ourselves and successors that if any injuries for the future be done contrary to these articles by the government and people of Tripoli to the King of Great Britain and his subjects, if upon demand of satisfaction from the government and the people of Tripoli, we or they refuse to or deny to give satisfaction, therefore, so that a war be occasioned thereby between the King of Great Britain and the government of the people of Tripoli, we do engage ourselves and our successors to make restitution for the injuries done, and likewise to make satisfaction to the king.
And so that says a lot. And so one thing you see is you see government. You don't read the word attorney anywhere in the treaty. You don't see the word attorney appear, but you see government titles. You see a political structure because there are positions in each position. The Halil Basha, the Ibram, the Ibram Dey, Aga, the Divan. All this is dealing with government structure. This is dealing with political unity. Just reading it, you see, because there's not individuals. It's a body. It's a group with one goal, one commonality. And so, and we're going to identify within this contract, this treaty that we're reading, that we're going to identify who are the people involved. So we're going to go over to another section of this treaty to identify who specifically are they referring to. You also see in this, it talked about English captives. So an English captives is what we've been taught that a slave was, a captive, a prisoner of war. So it's a prisoner, an English captive is a prisoner of war, not necessarily a slave. But when they didn't raise this issue, was not taught in the school system or in the movies or in the cartoons that they push. They don't show English captives, English European white men held as prisoners. I didn't say this. I'm saying it's within the Treaty of Great Britain and Tripoli, signed March 1676. That says it, not Kwasi. It's telling you here that there were English captives. And then you'll have other information, you know, like the Thomas Pello, Islam's 1 million white slaves to kind of get an idea of how many. But it won't specify the number in the treaty, but it lets you know that this was a condition. This was going on. This is something that was happening. But it's during the same time period that they taught us 12 million Africans came from Southwest Africa and other areas to what we know as North, South America, and the Caribbean, etc. This is during the same time period. This wasn't brought up. We didn't know this. And so we don't they don't put this out. And so the masses are stuck without this information. They don't consider, or they don't think, they don't imagine that they're at home, that they're standing in their own land. Because they're conditioned to think that they came from Africa, were brought over through the Atlantic Ocean, but this part was not raised. They didn't know about this part. And so I thought it was very intriguing to see that the English captives were held in bondage during the same time period as the transatlantic slave trade. Then you'll see the government and people of Tripoli. It's a government means you have a structure. And so we're going to look at the signature page of one of the other treaties, and we'll see that everything's based off of, so you got different roles of government where each individual holds, they have a cabinet, a group that helps maintain whatever is needed for them to maintain. So that's why it's important for us to learn and bring our mind to the point of political unity so that we're able to execute these different roles, but do it through knowledge and proper conceptions. So that's why the studying part is very necessary, because if you got to know how to operate correctly and as a unit and not as an individual. And so, yeah, that provided a lot of information. The Mediterranean Sea. So you'll see where the Mediterranean Sea is located, and then you'll see where Tripoli is located. And I just wanted to show this because you'll hear about the Mediterranean Sea as you study the treaties. And so this gives you an idea of the condition of what was going on in the Mediterranean. Now, if they don't have control of the Mediterranean, just logically think, how would they have control of a larger body of water, the Atlantic Ocean? So during this same time period, hundreds of ships are being captured by the Moors and the Turks, the Ottomans. So they have hundreds and hundreds of ships a year being captured and taken in the Mediterranean during the same time period as the transatlantic slave trade. Thousands of English captives, up to millions over time, but thousands every year, thousands and thousands that you'll see, and you'll see in the presentation. So you'll think, okay, just based on that, how they are able to have power in the Atlantic Ocean and they can't control a smaller body of water? So whoever controls the smaller body of water, will have access to the Atlantic Ocean as well. Because you'll see that they're almost connected here by the Iberian Peninsula that you'll learn about as well. So by the Iberian Peninsula, you'll see where the Atlantic Ocean is next to that, and it's connected right by the Mediterranean Sea. And so that's how my mind worked. And I was like, well, damn, if we controlling the Mediterranean Sea, how is it that the Europeans are controlling the Atlantic Ocean? They now, keep in mind, they just coming out of their Renaissance too. So we'll look at the Moors' Renaissance in Spain and their condition in Spain to put it together, and establishing colonies and capturing millions of Africans, taking them thousands of ships. And so you start to look at it and it rationalize different based on other information that was left out. And so this is the same treaty, but a different section, and it's going to name, it's either this one or the next one. where it's gonna name the parties involved. And so somebody read, this is just one article. This one. Somebody take this one for me. Article 4 of the Treaty of Tripoli between Great Britain and Tripoli.
That the Tripoli ships of war or other vessels thereunto belonging, meeting with any merchant ships or other vessels of the King Great Britain subjects, nor being in any other seas pertaining to His Majesty's dominions, may send on board one single boat with but 2 sitters, besides the ordinary crew of rowers, and no more. Besides ordinary crew of rowers, and no more but 2 sitters, to enter any of the said merchant ships or any other vessels, without experts leave from the commanders of every such ship or vessel, and then, upon producing unto them a pass under the hand and seal of the Lord High Admiral of England, the said boat shall presently depart, and the merchant ships or vessels shall proceed freely on her or their voyage. And although the commander or commanders of the said merchant ships or vessel or vessels produce no pass from the Lord High Admiral of England, yet if the major part of the said ship or vessel company be subject to the said King of Great Britain, the said boat shall presently depart, and the merchant ship or vessel or vessels shall produce freely on her or their voyage, and if any other said ships of war or other vessels of His said Majesty meeting with any other ship or vessel or vessels belonging to Tripoli, if the commander, commanders, or any other such ship or vessel or vessels shall produce a pass firm by the chief or governor of Tripoli and a certificate from the English council living there, or if they have no such pass or certificate, yet if the major part of their ship, company, or companies be Turks, Moors, or slaves belonging to Tripoli, then said Tripoli ships, vessel, or vessel shall proceed freely.
And so I'm like, okay, wow. They dealing with, this is where, so now you see them dealing with passports, having passes to pass different ports, you know, in the dominion of Tripoli. And so now you see how diplomacy work, how working with another nation, who's the hosting nation, who has control. And just by reading the language, you're able to see who dominions they were in. Because they're talking about how do they board, you know, another ship. What's the process in that? They gotta have 2 sitters, 2 rowers, or what, you know, it says something like that. And so that you see a process of dealing with another nation. And but not just that alone. You see in so that's what we got to do, come up to the family of nations, come back to the family of nations. But not only do you see that, you see that there were slaves, there were English slaves during the same time period as the transatlantic slave trade. And you know now that they're talking about Moors and Turks. So the parties were identified. And so now we know exactly who we talking about. We're gonna tie in how we Moors. We're not gonna go into super detail because it's more of the transatlantic slave trade. But for those who knew, we have to see that the so-called Negroes are really Moors, and you'll start to see these are the same folks. But you were divided by language. Language was the tool that was used. Like you have a tool at a garden, you shovel up dirt. Language was the tool to move your consciousness from one place to another for the benefit, you know, of the conquerors. So then in that change, it then benefits you though. The condition that you're in now then benefits you prior to your previous condition. So they moved your consciousness using the words. A generational attack. And so it's not just about calling yourself a Moor or a Turk. It's about the relation to the rest of the world on how you deal with people. And you won't yell Constitution for the United States. You say treaty, 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 and you'll form your own constitution that embodies your rights and traditions and ceremonies and the way you express yourself to one another. And so, you know, they talking about a lot of this is dealing in vessels is not limited. We looked up the etymology of vessel on a previous study group. Your body is a vessel. Vessel is not limited to a ship. It's a means of transporting something, a suitcase that you got items in. it's moving something from one place to another. So this is to protect your belongings. The
Point of
treaty.
privilege, brother.
Go ahead.
So when you say blood vessels, I mean, when you say vessel, it made me think about blood vessel. And when you said body, it made, our blood vessel and our organs. I noticed that when they're talking about things of the sea, kind of like the canal, it has stuff to do like the birth canal. So I was just trying to see, is that the right concept to have when you mention our body and vessel?
Yeah, that's perfect.
It's
Let me
fine.
clarify. Let me clarify that. Let me expand on that. All right. So yes, what they've done was through language, as Kwasi mentioned, is that they've used language, one to separate us from our history, our culture, and also to oppress us. So what they've done was they've overlaid admiralty language that they use in the hospital. So you have birth, BERTH, BIRTH. So there's two births that take place in the hospital. You have the BIRTH first, then you have the BERTH. All right, the BIRTH birth is the physical birth where, the child, the emphasis, the fetus is coming out of the womb. That's the BIRTH. That's BIRTH. All right. When they cut the umbilical cord, they take the child over to the, all right, birthing, BERTH. All right. So they take the footprint, put the ink pad, all right, on the feet, all right, and put that on the piece of paper. That's the BERTH. So there's two birthing that's taking place, BIRTH and BERTH, and they take place minutes apart. So, all right, so that's where, so you're right there, Sister Mia Moore. Just wanted to just be more specific, all right, and that's through language. So that's admiralty. So they're overlaying. So admiralty is being applied in the hospital. Now, what's the issue? Because of the collapse of our Moroccan Empire, so this is why the conference, the Moorish Treaty, Moorish Political Unity Conference, Moorish Birthright, Moorish Nationality, Governance, Birthright, Nationality Claim Conference. Get your tickets soon, May 18th. This is the facilitation of the conference is a vehicle to facilitate a voice, a body politic, so that we can serve as an international voice for our people. When they collapse our government, mothers over the past 100 years have been going into a foreign entity, i.e. the United States jurisdiction, without a flag, without flying their colors. So we have to raise the Moorish flag again. How do you raise the Moorish flag, Abdullah? Moorish flag has not been raised in over 200 years by us. What do you mean, Abdullah? I physically raised the flag. What are you saying? That I put my hand up in the air. That's not raising the Moorish flag politically. That's physically raising the Moorish flag. Let me continue. If 10,000 Hawaiians tomorrow go to the palace where their queen was put under house arrest by the United States in 1893, If they stand in front of that palace tomorrow morning and physically, and 10,000 of them, we got 10,000, each of them have a flag. The flag above their head. Would that be a political raising of the flag? Is that the political raising of the kingdom flag? 10,000 tomorrow. Down to the palace. That queen was put on the house arrest by the United States in 1993. And they got 10,000 of them in their hands. Would that represent a political raising of the kingdom flag, a Hawaiian kingdom flag? So does that represent a political raising?
Would that be a yes?
No, is that a political raising of the flag?
No, they will not come together to form a government.
All right, so the people of Hawaii had not convened in a constitutional convention. We covered the loss. So going down tomorrow morning, 1,000 going down to the palace and physically raising the Kingdom of Hawaii flag. That is not the recovery. That's not how you recover the lost Hawaiian sovereignty. What they need to do to recover their lost Hawaiian sovereignty. What do they need to do to recover their lost Hawaiian sovereignty?
Organize government structure and pledge their allegiance to their government.
So they need to organize into a constitutional convention. So they need to form a caucus. And in the caucus appoint delegates to convene at Hawaiian Constitutional Convention. Draft a Hawaiian Constitution. They would do two things: restore the kingdom. That they would have to among them see who is heir phone to reorganize as a republic. Restore the kingdom or reorganize as the republic. Reorganize as a republic to form a caucus. Political science now. This is not taught in law school. This is political science. Form a caucus. Done said gets to convene at a constitutional convention. You already have a population. Remember, 10,000. Remember, 10,000 will be out there tomorrow. All right, physically raising. Now, what's the issue with our brothers and sisters in Hawaii? A body of them have been dependent on their oppressor, their subjugator, United States. United States invaded Hawaii, subjugated Hawaii, followed by annexation. So they have been in that comfort zone. So they're scared, they're afraid, what this, we've been, our master's been taking care of us. And then you have a body of them that are like us. To recover the whole lost Hawaiian sovereignty. There's been a clash there. Past over 100 years, there's been a clash. Right? This is where, so why haven't they been moved forward, this Abdullah? Because there's been a clash. You have a body of them to remain, to be under subjugation and annexation by the United States. You have a body of them that, want to recover their lost Hawaiian sovereignty. So this is the political dynamics they've been dealing with for over 100 years. All right. I just want to be specific on the political process because we have to roll into this knowledge. All right, peace.
Thanks for that, Professor. We'll continue on to the next slide. And so we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back, and now we're gonna look at the Articles of Peace between Great Britain and Algiers. So keep in mind, at first we was in 1676. I said, let's back up a little bit. So now we're gonna look at the treaty between the Articles of Peace between Great Britain and Algiers. In Article 3, that all subjects of the King of Great Britain, now slaves in Algiers. So the first line in Article 3, you're like, oh man, this in 1664. This the same time period that they taught us millions of Africans was transported from Southwest Africa across the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean, South America, North America, etc. That's during the same time period. And so you see in Article 3 of the treaty between Great Britain and Algiers that all subjects of the King of Great Britain, now slaves in Algiers. So now you see that the English, they were slaves in Algiers during the same time period. Or any of the territories thereof be set at liberty and delivered upon paying the price they were first sold for in the market. But you see how they pushed us, oh, we were sold on this day, we were sold. Not disputing that, but look at what they left out though. And now you got to look at motive behind it. Because they left, in order to say the other part, you should have just went on and said both parts. So why did they leave one of them out? So now you see that there's a motive, there's a deeper, and that's the rabbit hole. Then you begin to go down the rabbit hole and you figure out why. And the reason why was to take the land, to have control of the natural resources of the land, wherever they may dwell. And for the time to come, no subjects of his majesty's be bought or sold or made slaves in Algiers or its territories. Article 5, that any merchant of the subjects of the King of Great Britain dying in Algiers or its territories, his goods or money shall not be seized by the Bafa, the Aga, or any other minister, but remain with the English consul. And they say the English attorney. Now, and I, because when I go back to what they be teaching us, oh, hire you an attorney. Just hire you an attorney, and he'll fight the case. He'll file a motion. We get caught up in that, and but then reading it, why don't it say English attorney? So you begin to see us a lot being left out and been leaving out stuff that puts us in a refuge bound state where we got to be legislated by a foreign government. People got to take care of us. People got to tell us what to do, And so that I was like, dang, that stood out to me. The English consul, it just didn't use the word attorney. And I heard that a lot growing up. Hire an attorney. You should get an attorney. I never heard of the word consul. I've heard the word counselor, but the word consul dealing with disputes, though, I never heard it in that manner. As I began to grow and look into it, I was always pushed to get an attorney. You were too. Article 6, that the English consul that lives in Algiers be allowed a place to pray in, and no man to do him or any of his said majesty's subjects any wrong or injury in word or deed whatsoever. So this ain't got nothing to do with religion or how you know it. It's just dealing with diplomacy. How did other nations dealing with each other during the same time period of the transatlantic slave trade? Article 7, in the case of any of his said majesty's subjects, any wrong or injury in word or deed. They could just say it in deed, but they say in word. So we see that words can injure people. Words can put you in a situation. So we can't dispute words and how they're used to subjugate the land and control your national resources. We have to consider language based, not only looking at this, but I'm just giving value to the statement. It didn't just use the word deed. It said and word too. So words are able to injure. And whether it's mental injury, displacing you, putting you in a container jurisdictionally where you control all your resources, your women, your children, the medicine, the education, how they grow their food, if they can grow food, the water. And so words can do that. So it's power in words, and it's not to overlook it quickly and say, oh, it's just a bunch of information. These are tools. Like I say, like you get a shovel and you dig a hole in the ground and then you go get the plant. You created a condition for the plant to be able to root itself and grow to give you fruit and vegetables for you to eat and feed your family using that tool. So I'm saying, look at the words are a tool to deal with things. All the things are not seen with your naked eye when you're dealing with words, but to dismiss it would be a great error on our part, as we want to put the youth and our future generations in a better position. So we have to look at the word, and give it value in the context of political structure and treaties and dealing with disputes with foreigners and with citizens of different governments.
And if I may, brother, I can't help but to add this, in the biblical text, my mom grew us up saying that life and death is on the power of the tongue, and the word was God, and God was the word. So I agree 100% with the word. I yield.
Thanks for that value. Anybody else got anything they want to add to the topic? Let's see. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Patroller Officer L. Yeah, a couple of points that I was listening to. Great class, first of all. As I'm listening to you, I'm listening to information that I've heard somewhat about, so I've kind of got a working mind about what you're saying. But then I thought about, what about people that are listening to this that really don't have a foundation? They're not helping to tie it in. So what I was thinking is that there is a map, and that map shows the eastern, southwest, northwest shores of North America. That map shows the Barbary states. So when we speak about the Barbary coast or the Barbary countries, one would think in terms of, as you're speaking of treaty, you're speaking of treaty with AAA or Algiers, you're speaking of that. Whereas if the people were, some study, they would understand that this is the Moorish dominion. This is the Moroccan Empire that we're claiming as heirs. On this side, we're saying that we are the same people that is across the water that are claiming to be Moors over in Algiers, Tripoli, or whatever. So you're going over the treaty that existed between the Barbary powers. And so for those people that may be listening and don't quite see, well, how are you claiming yourself even more? This was the Moorish dominion, the Moorish Empire. And so that is one of the points I wanted to bring out. Secondly, I'll yield, I'll come back. But basically I was trying to draw that mental picture in why you're going over these treaties and talking about the relationship between Moors and the European subjects, and how these subjects have been part of the slave incarcerated subjects at a time when the claim of the strong, mighty power of the transatlantic slave trade was supposed to have gone on with the so-called Negroes over here in this area of the greater Morocco. So I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
Thanks for that value.
If I may, to add on what Picolo's saying, and it's going to be real short, but in my presentation tomorrow, I'm going to show a map of before 1492 of the Barbary map here on these shores. And so it's going to connect with what you're saying. It's not going to go in as deep as you're saying, so great presentation, but it's gonna touch on what you're touching on. I yield.
Appreciate the value, bro. And so as we're reading this, all these conditions that we're looking at in the treaty, keep in mind the transatlantic slave trade that, like you said, like Pecola was saying, they got us perceiving, if they was able to do that on that mass number, it make it seem like they controlled the Atlantic Ocean. They were just freeloading and just whatever they say go type. That's the perception that was given by portraying the transatlantic slave trade during this same time period of these treaties that they didn't mention with that statement. And so you'll say, damn, they wasn't that powerful like that in that time during this time period when they claimed to be transporting and run around the Atlantic Ocean, doing whatever they wanted to do, trading spice and goods, and and so it give you a different view. You say, damn, they want their perception to get eliminated by introducing what was going on during that same time period. And we're gonna tie in later in the presentation that we Moors here. We're gonna make the connection. And so that was why I love what Pecola was saying. Yes, we're Moors here. And so we're gonna show the connection in that. And so you see they identified here in the treaty Turk or Moor again in Article 7. The people that they're talking about are Turks and Moors and English subjects of Great Britain. And so Article 7, that in case any of his said majesty's subjects should happen to strike a Turk or a Moor, if he be taken, let him be punished. But if he escape, nothing shall be said to the English consul or any other of his said majesty's subjects upon that account. Not the attorney. So we've been taught to use the word attorney. We should have been using the word consul. But now there's an operation that comes with that. You can't just use the word consul. Now it's began to activate, and you got to appoint a consul and have a permanent population of Moors that's conscious of voting election process. And then you start to see government structure, not just going out here saying that you're a consul. That won't do it. And so we go back a couple more years. You have the Treaty of Peace between England and Tripoli, signed at Tripoli, October 1662. Somebody read these couple articles I got on here.
That from this day and forever forward, there'll be a good and firm peace between his sacred majesty, the King of Great Britain, and the bias and the Basa and the people of the city and kingdom of Tripoli and the dominions thereunto belonging, and the ships, subjects, and people on either party shall not do nor offer any offense or injury to each other, but treat one another with all possible respect and friendship. And any ship belonging to the King of Great Britain or any of his subjects may freely come to the port of Tripoli and buy and sell as in formal times, and also unto any other port that belong to the government of Tripoli, paying the custom as in formal times, and no man within the jurisdiction of Tripoli shall give the subject of his majesty's of his said majesty a bad word or a bad deed or a bad action, and presently after the signing and sealing of this article, all injury and danger sustained on either party shall be quite taken away and forgotten, and this place shall be in full force and virtue.
And so they're dealing with ports. So they dealing with ports. And then another thing that popped up as I was just reading, it hit a flag. It said, in that picture I showed in the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, they had the 13 colonies on there. But the more you think about it, and then correlate that to the United States. So in this time, as we're reading this, the United States didn't exist. The United States doesn't exist at this time. And so you'll see later when the United States come in, they had to begin to make their treaties and arrangements with the nations of the earth. But appreciate for reading that, bro. And so you just see here in the Bassa and the people of the city of the kingdom of Tripoli and the dominions thereunto belonging. So they still dealing with the ships and dominions and who controlling the territory. And it's not Great Britain. And then Article 2, that all ships, as well as those belonging to his sacred majesty, the King of Great Britain, and any of his majesty's subjects, as those belonging to Tripoli, shall freely pass the seas and traffic without any search, hindrance, or molestation whatsoever. So when I read that, for them to put that in there, that means it had to be happening. So that the Treaty of Peace is negotiating the conditions of the peace. So you'll see that this is put in there because that means so they were getting searched. They were getting hindered and molested. That's why it's in here. It wouldn't be in here if it wasn't happening already. So you also can get that out of it during the same time period that they said they were the almighty power doing whatever they wanted to do in the Atlantic and Mediterranean Sea. And so you'll see there though, they were being searched, hindered, or molested. And so this Treaty of Peace wanted to stop that, wanted to end that. So you'll see a lot of Moorish power that was buried and covered up that they didn't mention when they taught us about the transatlantic slave trade claim. They left a lot out. And for the better practicing of this second article, according to the true intent and meaning thereof, it is agreed that the Tripoli ships of war meeting any merchant ship belonging to the subjects of the King of Great Britain, and not being in any of the seas appertaining to his majesty's dominions, have liberty to send one single boat with 2 sitters more than the common crew of rowers. And so they got to do all this, all this going on. And then they got us thinking millions of Africans, millions being transported with all these conditions being set. What did I leave off? And not being in any of the seas appertaining to his majesty's dominions, have liberty to send one single boat, but 2 sitters more than the common crew of rowers, and no more to enter on board the said merchant ship, but the 2 sitters, without the express leave of the commander of the merchant ship, that upon producing them a passport, under the hand and seal of the Lord High Admiral of England, the said boat do presently depart, and the merchant ship to proceed on his voyage. And although the commander of the merchant ship produce no pass from the Lord High Admiral of England, yet if the major part of the ship's company subjects to the King of be subjects to the King of Great Britain, the said boat shall presently depart, and the merchant ship proceed freely. And so you see nationality, all this being important, because if you say you something else, and see this protection out there. So that's why it's important that we know that how we identify, it matters what you say, and because now you're taking yourself out of a body of agreements, and you're subjecting yourself to a colorable venue when you apply any term to you, when you're dealing with your land rights and disputes and situations dealing with foreigners, any interaction, your nationality will become important as is who you are. You seeing that activated in Article 2. However, they didn't have the passport, they still had to be subjects. They had to have, you know, show political allegiance to the King of Great Britain in order to pass, not political allegiance to anything. So it was specific that they had to be subjects of Great Britain. Go ahead, Picola.
Yes, I've been listening, and as you're reading, it is very important that we're speaking about diplomacy. There is no individual representation. We spoken about councils, CONSUL. As you stated before, there is no mention of attorney. There is no mention of counselor. There is a head of state, if you will, appointed, and that is a tool. So I'm listening to all of that, and I haven't heard the word Indian yet mentioned in either of the treaties that you're dealing with. I have heard the nationality, the reference of Moors, Turks, British subjects, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to put that out there that, again, this is for our people, including myself. And if I was not knowledgeable, I would stand very firmly that I'm up under Cherokee and I'm up under Blackfeet. I would stand there and tell you that my grandmother said we Indians. But that is not what's going on here. And I hope that other people are really getting this, that may be out there listening for the very first time, is that there is no discussion of Indian as of the 1600s dealing with these treaties. There is no discussion of Indian relations at this point. It is Moors and is dealing with the Moroccan Empire, of which we are a part of over here in the greater Morocco. I yield. Thank you.
Islam, appreciate the value. And in the last part of this section of Article 2, you see the ship's companies be Turk, Moors, or slaves, then the Tripoli ship to proceed freely. So it's identified. It don't say Negro like she was saying, don't say black. But you're gonna see later what Moor was used simultaneously with black as a social engineering concept. And so you'll see where it's the same people, but you don't see the term black, Indian, Negro, African American, African being used. So that's why I wanted to show the terminology. So out of that whole read, you could pull a lot from it, you know, but these just main things that came to my mind when reading it. You know.
Point of interest. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I hear you say Moors and you say subjects. So can you help me elaborate on when you say subjects of, was it Britain? It's like it's a difference between the Moors and the subject. So could you explain that subject part to me?
So a subject is like a follower, someone who is protected by the power or jurisdictional extension of Great Britain. So somebody that's subscribed to be a citizen, depending on their government structure, you know, but it's basically saying a follower, somebody who submits to the King of Great Britain, that's under their political umbrella, their control. They provide resources and they give them representation, etc. So they have an arm of protection. So a subject of Great Britain is followers of Great Britain, so a citizen of Great Britain, somebody under the protection of the power and jurisdictional extension of Great Britain. Go ahead, Sadiq.
So basically they will be like, would it be because they're under a monarch system or something like that, from like a king and a queen?
Well, a sultan can have subjects. You know what I'm saying? Subjects is just.
So a slave couldn't have a subject, is what I'm trying to say. Like, so it had to be somebody rank.
You're using slave connotatively, Sadiq. So that Sadiq, Saeed.
Yeah,
let's go back to what he said about slave at the beginning of this presentation. You're using slave connotatively. You want to be very clear that you're using, long as you're clear,
Yeah.
that you're using the word slave
Mhm.
connotatively. A slave is a nationality. That's the East. The word slave denotes the nationality, consanguinity, ancestry, lineage, pedigree, national origin, descent, genealogy of people in Eastern Europe.
So that was talking about
That-
Albions.
All right, that's the nationality.
Okay.
No. That's not all Albions. No, let's
Okay.
be clear. No,
Okay.
no. So no.
Okay.
But no. You
Okay.
said talk about Albions. So if I had said yes, that would apply all Albions.
Okay.
Eastern Europe. All right.
Gotcha.
All right. George Washington was not a slave
Gotcha.
because he's not of Slavic descent.
Mm-hmm.
Czechoslovakians, Hungarians,
Mm-hmm.
the Baltic states, they're slaves. Yugoslavian, Ukraine, they're slaves. Slavics.
Right.
They're Slavics. It's the Eastern European nationality of people of Eastern Europe.
Okay.
All right.
So now my
All right, so I want to make sure that everyone's clear on that because I know
I was
because
not
the word
clear until
slave,
now. Thank you.
because the word slave, we've been groomed forever into the constructive, connotative meaning of slave. Now, your question is to me, Abdullah, how did the word slave, how did the nationality of the Eastern people, Eastern Europe, gain its modern connotative meaning? All right, great.
Okay.
So you good on that, bro?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But you hear me? Do you hear me?
I couldn't hear you, Abdullah.
Yeah, broke up.
I couldn't hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, bro.
I hear you
All
now.
right, because Shimmy's calling me. He's yeah, because I sent him a link already.
Okay. Yeah, I'm clear on that.
All right, so let me just finish this point. 'Cause I lost my train of thought. All right, yes. How did the word slave
come about
gain its modern connotative meaning? That's your question to me. The Russians put the slaves under conquest and subjugation. So the act of the Russians, the act of subjugating the Slavic people became the modern connotative meaning of someone held in captivity. You know, it doesn't mean that's a constructive meaning. We're dealing with semantics now. That is the modern constructive meaning. Gotcha. So it's important when you're talking to family, kin folks, loved ones, and friends and coworkers. It's important that you employ both etymology and semantics to be able to explain how the modern meaning came about. Then you're going to both acknowledge the semantical modern constructive meaning and trace and tell and give them the etymology and be able to explain how did the modern meaning come about. Right? I got to call Shem because he called me 3 times already. All right, peace. I'll come back.
Okay, peace.
If I may, just to add, and I apologize again, but if I may, just to add back on, as I said earlier, in J.A. Rogers' 100 Major Facts About the Negroes, but it does say the word Slav comes originally applied to white people. It comes from the word Slav, a Russian people captured by the Germans. And so, yeah, they were touching on what Abdullah was saying, touching on what you're saying. Yeah, that's where the word, etymology deals with the nationality of people that were captured by Germans, the Russians. I yield.
And so subject, so they're not the same. Subject is, like I was saying, just a follower, somebody under the protection, a citizen, you know, of that political structure. And so you can have a subject.
Because that's where I was confused about on how did the title subject come about. That's why I was confused about. too, but also he cleared me up about that because what I thought I knew wasn't accurate too about the Slavic actually being a nationality. So thank you. I appreciate
Islam.
cutting you off like that.
No, you good. I
Yeah,
love it. This is what we
Peace and love,
here
brother.
for.
Yeah, it's all
And you'll
love,
see
brother.
Brother DuPont posted in the chat. Y'all can read it. The Atlantic Ocean was known as the Ethiopian Ocean until the 19th century. The Ethiopian Ocean starts to disappear.
Wow. I didn't know
So
that.
yes, you can check that out. It's information that's being posted in the chat as well. Let's see. And so article 3, that any ship belonging to the subjects of His Majesty, the King of Great Britain, coming into Tripoli or any of the ports in the territories shall for the such goods as they sell pay the dues according to custom. So when they coming in these ports, they paying the dues according to the custom of what they've been paying during the same time period that they taught us they was the mighty person of the Atlantic Ocean, that they controlled the Atlantic Ocean by telling us they was transporting 12 million Africans from Southwest Africa to America, North and South, and the spice trade. That's giving us the illusion that they must have controlled the Atlantic Ocean. They control the Mediterranean Sea. That gives you that perception. So now they look powerful. Then they show you movies like the Pirates of the Caribbean. Then they give you these images in your mind. They kind of make you rationalize with what they told you. And so you'll see them conditioning you and putting you in a position mentally using media, music, etc. All this being a tool, like the shovel is a tool, where you dig a hole, you get wood chips, you can hit somebody with it. You know what I mean? It's a tool. And so these movies, everything, not just something to go do. It can move things, whether it be your mental thought, your way you view something, your perception of a thing, and you'll see all that being under attack. And so that's why it was good to bring this article into further talk, is because they were paying dues. So they didn't have a lot of resources like that when you consider the Moorish Renaissance that we'll probably go over next time. But you'll look at the Moorish Renaissance and we'll walk ourselves up and with these treaties in mind. So you'll see that there's no possible way, based on what's documented, that they had that kind of power at that time. They wanted to put that in you so it can withstand fear. So when it's time to rise up again, it's an almighty power. Not saying they are, I ain't, not saying, but you will give them too much based off of the false perception. The basis of it will be off the false perceptions. Your intimidation, your fear will be rooted in the false perceptions. It won't be just what it is. It'll be off of the false perception. So that's why I wanted to bring that out. And give
Point
a
of interest again, brother. I really appreciate this PowerPoint. I'm really learning so much. It brings out so many points that I could share with people. When you saying, so the point is that the Atlanta slave trade that telling us that was going on was not going on because they was not running the sea like they saying they was. They was not running the moving commerce the way they say they was moving. So this slave trade that was going on was really them and not us.
Yeah, I'm not saying it didn't happen at all. I'm saying it was an illusion. It appears based off of the well-settled evidence of the treaties and the diplomatic relations that ties us to the Atlantic and Mediterranean Sea. It shows that it was vice versa. It was more of them were subjected to abuses and couldn't thrive and trade and do as they please using the ocean during the same time period of the claim that they made. And so I'm with you. Yeah, it doesn't. I'm with you on it. Yeah,
So was the Moors like pirates or something at that time?
We were called pirates by the Europeans. They call you Berbers, pirates, Sarcians. Pirates is one of them. They call you you know, all kind of uncivilized barbarians. And so, but that's what they calling you though. They calling you
And
that. Go ahead.
and another thing I'm noticing as you talk about this, it seemed like they was moving bodies and people as well. Like when you said it wasn't just, you know, merchandise, it was people as well. And I noticed when you say port, and I just remember looking at some things about prison in my studies, and I see that when a lot of the prisons are called port, like they have that written on the gate when they go in, is port. Is that related any kind of way in that commerce? I yield.
Yeah, it's all commerce. It's all commerce, human trafficking on the color of law. It's dealing in commerce.
So it's dealing like in maritime law.
Yeah, they're applying admiralty law. They're using that.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
using that.
Well, yes, I learned a lot. It's like lighting light bulbs and tying different things that I heard. Like when you mentioned the word, and I remember reading the Bible and it's saying God is the word. So it's like everything, you're connecting dots for me. I appreciate it, brother. Great work. Great job. I yield.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll continue on. And it's the Treaty of Peace of Tripoli between England and Tripoli gives us this. And so it's not, I didn't say anything. Only thing I did was read the different articles, and based on what they're presenting, it gives you a deeper look into how to analyze what they've taught us in the school systems through movies, TV shows, articles, and captions and pictures and images. And so the treaties gives us another view of it on how to look at it. Article 7, that the consul or any other subject of the King of Great Britain in matter of difference shall not be liable to any other judgment but that of the day. So you see the consul, the English consul, the Great Britain, their consulars have to answer in this treaty in 1662, they had to answer to the day. And so now but like Picola was saying earlier, you see you don't see individualism. You don't see somebody saying, if you go file a trust in a foreign government, if you go deposit a power, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you go file something, it don't talk about that. It's talking about delegation and how functions work, dealing with other nations, positions and documents that activates what the language in the treaty that gives the treaty value is, and so, but it's very enlightening to see that they didn't do this alone. You see a system and a structure. And so we are those people. Now it's not one or two people. So that means we all have to play a role in the resurrection to exercise post-millennium. It won't be done by study groups. That'll facilitate it. So it'll be done by us activating, going out, knowing and exercising our international rights through a national political identity. And so you'll see a uniform structure through the treaties. When you meditate on it, you read, you think about, you see that it's more than just something you and I can go do. It has to be done by the central body.
Islam, Brother Kwasi.
Islam.
I want to go back to Sister Mia Moore's question. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, Sister Mia Moore asked, were the Moors pirates? I know you in the movies, they talk about the pirates. Now, in the treaties, I just want to direct our attention. Put the mute the phone, please. Your device. In the treaties that various excerpts of the Kwasi had shown 3 excerpts from 3 different treaties. And in the treaties, you read government structure, government structure, government structure. The pirate discussion takes us away from government structure. As if Moors were operating as private on their own. So I just want to direct Look at the treaties. It's government structure. It's government. They're settling the issue of captivity through treaty. Government. It's not some body of loose Moors out there. Because the ransom was paid to the Beys or Days. It was the Beys or Days or Empress set the ransom. It wasn't just, see, they give the misrepresentation in the movies, the Pirates of the Caribbean and all these other movies. Because so what you see here in the treaties, the evidence is it's not what Abdullah Bey, it's not Abdullah Bey saying anything. It's the treaties. So someone says, Mia Moore, you don't know what you're talking about. So Mia Moore is going to take out these treaties. Mia Moore is going to make the claim that it's not some loose body of Moors. And someone says, Mia Moore, you don't know what you're talking about. And Mia Moore is going to pick out these treaties. There's no back and forth. There's no back and forth. You just take out the evidence. You take the evidence out, like Kwasi's showing us the evidence to support your claim. I made the claim, and Kwasi's presented the evidence here to support the claim. We got it. So the key is what Kwasi is doing is directing us to government structure. All right? Do we understand what I'm saying here?
Islam.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Islam. Piccola Kusar I just wanted to add in that when the treaties were being read, within one of those treaties, it was of one governmental head trying to make amends for the actions of a few individuals. And so that governmental head was basically stating how to correct and give remedy to the injured party, which was another nation. It stated that some individuals had fled. So I would draw the conclusion also that there was unauthorized looting or taking ships that a nation was embarrassed by and needed to make some kind of amends. So I just want to throw that out. You know, pirating is not like an organized event of an action that a nation would take. A nation would take as an obligation or a big move in that regard. They wouldn't take the action, I would think, of pirating. Pirating is like a kind of form of a petty theft on the high seas kind of thing. So I just wanted to bring that out. I did hear something about one of the nation states, I think it was maybe Tripoli, or was talking about how to correct the action of some embarrassing moments of our citizens. I yield.
Islam. In the 16 in Moors and Masonry Part 2, there is the navigation, the navigational pass. The navigational pass was huge in the 1682 treaty between Algiers and Great Britain. You have the navigational pass, and that was huge. So this was set by government. Algiers set the navigational pass, and for Great Britain. So the navigational pass, it was renewed in 1701 and renewed the second time in 1713. So this is government. Day of Algiers setting in a treaty, Great Britain, the navigational pass. So if Great Britain did not have, and with Great Britain's ships, sailors or captains, sail the seas without a navigational pass. You see in the treaties, the penalties. The English, those who, the English subjects who sailed from the English colonies here on our land, that those sailors, they were protected by these treaties. And when the children, English subjects, revolted against their mother, they forged navigational passes to continue. Once they revolted against the crown, the Moorish treaties no longer protected them. So they did what they forged navigational passes to get that protection. This was a major issue. So you see the treaty those. So these treaties, these Moorish treaties, allowed France and Sardinia and Belgium and Sweden, Great Britain, the Dutch, the Netherlands, the Dutch Republic to expand their trade and commerce. These treaties also settled wars. There were 7 wars from the early 1600s to the 1700s between the Dutch Republic and Algiers, and treaties settled the matters. So you're seeing, once again, government structure at the head of this in the captivity and ransoming strategies and diplomatic and consular relations and wars. And so the government is at the head. If it wasn't for these treaties, it says, all right, these treaties position these European powers to where they are today. Let's throw this correlation, because these treaties allowed them protection to sail the seas. And you see in the treaties, and I appreciate you, Kwasi, because you're really, delving into this, and see that these treaties, you see Moorish power, these treaties. And that's what Kwasi is pulling out. But we want to emphasize government structure. I yield.
Islam, appreciate that value. We actually, this is gonna be a few part series. This will be the end. This is a bookmark, because we'll come back with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and Morocco, and we're gonna see that the people identified are still Moors. So those other treaties, because the question I had when I was reading, I was like, they would tell me the Treaty of Algiers, and I was like, well, what they got to do with Moors? Or the Treaty of Tunis, so I didn't have the connection. I didn't see why they people telling me about the Treaty of Tripoli. But then when you read the context of the treaty, you see the parties identified. And you say, okay, these the same people. The Tripoli Treaty, Treaty of Algiers, all them treaties, Tunis, identifying as Moors and Turks. So then you fast forward to the United States treaty, that people identified as still Englishmen and Moors. And so, but you'll see that over here in the United States, in their political zone that they formed out of the colonies, from the colonies authority. So we'll pick back up, and then we'll begin to look at different coats of arms. There was a presentation on Moorish Monday. You'll hear y'all talk about that at the next presentation, but you'll be able to see. Sister talked about a lot of coats of arms and crests, and the coats of arms dealing with what the military would wear. So those coats of arms are very important. What you would put on a coat of arm would resemble something about your culture, your traditions, your rites, your ceremonies. It wouldn't be random. And so you'll look at the coat of arms, and then you'll begin to see the Moorish culture found in the coats of arms in these different areas, for it's tying us into America, what's known as America today, and other stuff that we'll look at. And in part 2. So I hope you all had an enjoying time with the relook of the transatlantic slave trade claim, part 1. So before we go, do anybody want to make any announcements? They got anything they want to add, take away, or to say before we leave here today?
Yes, I have. This is Shil Malachi Bey. I have one thing to say. I appreciate this. This is very good. This, I mean, the professor started off in teaching, and you continue on this this pattern of good works. I really admire you for what you're doing. I love you for what you're doing. I'm just gonna add this. The amnesty case also proves that the slave trade story is a lie. Amnesty case. Watch them. Why you say that? Why? How can a group of Moors captured on a ship by pirates? They were the Europeans, the pirates, the Spaniards, going around capturing Moors, put them on a ship, and then the Moors took the ship over, and the ship crashed and landed in I think it's North Carolina. I believe it's North Carolina. I forgot what state it was. So that goes to show that, wait a minute, they the pirates. They was going around the high seas, snatching the Moors up and selling the Moors. So they were the pirates of sea, meaning that these regular commerce captains of ships navigating to the Moorish waters under the nose of the emir. Once they got caught, when they got caught in the ship, the Europeans, they wasn't innocent. They were pirates. So the emir would capture them and put them in captivity because they violated the laws of the sea, the laws of nature. I mean, the waters navigated waters of the Moors. There had to be permission by the emperor to allow them, or the government, the Dey of the Bey, that allowed them to go through the water routes. If they got caught without that pass, they were considered as what? Capture. Capture what? Probably captured, because that's an act of war. I mean, you invade somebody's waters without permission. So on the other hand, they're gonna paint it like the Moors was pirates. No, you the pirates. You was navigating the Moors' water by permission when you got caught, but you also was doing this because you was taking the Moors, placing the Moors in servitude, taking away their rights, selling them. So the Amistad case and the Moor Sundry Act is two documents that you referred to show that they propagated a story and fraud. Thank you. I rest.
Islam, appreciate that. Thunder Cloud in the house. Appreciate that. Anybody else want to add anything? Got any comments, questions that we can notate and maybe look at next time before we get started or something?
It's not a question, but just going into tomorrow, my presentation, and also a great presentation again. But my presentation tomorrow will kind of touch on certain things that you touched on tonight. So again, as I said, great presentation. But the title of my presentation for tomorrow is "What Happened to the Moors in the Americas Before 1492?" And so from Moor to Black, or Moor to Indian to Black, and why has the Moorish identity been hidden? And so that'll be part 5 with the fathers of the modern race paradigm tomorrow. And so again, great presentation, and I yield.
Islam. Well, if anybody got nothing else to say, like Brother Abdullah was saying, go to the Abdullah Bey Facebook page and buy your tickets for the conference, Moorish Nationality and Birthright Claim Conference coming up May 18th in Philadelphia. And continue to spread the word about the study groups on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday, the 2nd and 4th Thursday, Moorish Mondays. Be sure to continue to promote it and, stimulate conversations with people and then have them come on to get more information. You can give them the YouTube links the pages that I pulled up earlier. The Moroccan Post. Let me pull it up. I'll pull it up right quick. And hope you can direct them to these channels to be able to, further their education, getting the right conceptions and not getting misconceptions. So you can point them to these YouTube pages to subscribe, and that way they'll be getting a recording and they'll be notified when it
Hey brother.
Go ahead.
Islam, brother. I got a question. I know that the group almost over, so I don't want to ask that too deep. You know what I mean? We go ready to get above here, but I gotta ask, you know, is there something maybe that could be brought up later on in a later group? Now, I know for a fact that you know, we the ones that was bringing the Slavics over here and all that stuff, right? That's is out there at this point in time, right? That I keep trying to figure out, and like I said, it's a while up, so you know what I mean, it's not something we got to deal with right now. But I am curious. The Moors that was bringing the Slavics over here, I keep trying to figure out is they like the Moors that's over in Europe, is they like I guess you could say different from us?
Let me qualify that. The Slavics were not transported over here. What Slavics were not transported over here. Once again, that's an Eastern European nationality. Czechoslovakian, Hungarian, Yugoslavians. Yugoslavians were not transported over here. Czechoslovakians were not transported over here. Hungarians were not transported. You talking about English, Irish, Scottish, Dutch. They're not Slav. They're not Slavics. They're not slaves. They're not Slavics. So we want to be clear. The Slavics, that's Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia, the Baltic states, Hungary, Yugoslavia. So I want you to look at the map. All right. That's Eastern Europe. That's the slaves. That's the Slavics. The ones that were transported, Sweden, Irish. All right. Sardinians. They're not Slavics. Slavics were not transported over here. The slaves weren't transported over here. Are we clear? It's honest. First, it's being clear on the etymology of slave. That's where that's where it comes from. That's it. It's being clear on the etymology of slave.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because before you said that, it was like I put them all in one bunch until you just clarified that. Thank you.
Okay. I think my question was there. My question not really about them per se. It's just my question is about the Moors that brung, you know, that did all this stuff. Are they like basically like I keep hearing a term about Black Europeans and all that stuff. So I'm trying to figure out, because this is something that's like it's really a thing right now with you know, with a lot of conscious, unconscious, you know, is out there. So I'm just trying to get some understanding. I mean, like I said, that's probably a long question. But I had to wait to the end of the group just to throw it out there. You know, it's
Ronald, are you clear
right now?
All right, Ronald, are you clear on the etymology of slave? Are you clear on the etymology of slave?
Yeah,
because you said that the Slavics were transported over here. You said the Slavics were brought over here. So that's what you started with. Are you clear that the Slavics were not brought over here?
All right.
Ask me a question.
That's bro. All right. I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. It's debatable. You know what I mean? I'm not trying.
You said debatable. What do you mean by that?
I done heard a lot of things about the Slavics being brought from Europe to Africa and then from Africa into the United States. Well, into America. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as what kind of Europeans they were, you know, if you saying that the Slavics wasn't brought here from Africa, then you know that's I can't, you know what I mean? There's nothing I really can I can say about that. I mean, I haven't done all the research on it, but I know some Europeans was brought here. But you know, for now, you know what I mean, I'm you know, I'm rolling with you, you know what I mean? I gotta do my own research to get further to it in depth about, you know, who all was brought here from Europe. But I know that someone was brought from Europe into Africa and then from Africa to here. Now, from my understanding, these people was called Slavic. But you saying now that, because I noticed a lot of different Europeans, Albions, whatever you want to call them, that's from different parts of Europe. So, I can't say yay or nay on, that's another topic altogether. But I'm rocking with you if that's what you're saying, and
Don't rock with me. I don't want you to rock with me.
No, that's what I'm saying. All I can do is do the research on it myself and further find out.
Yeah, but I don't want you to rock with me though. That's what I'm saying. I don't want you to rock with me. All right, Kwasi, put up the etymology of slave, please. Go back to that slave. I don't want him to rock with me. Please don't rock with me. I'm not the end all be all, brother. Please don't rock with me. I don't want you to rock with me. I want you to rock with the evidence. So hear me out. This is for everybody. Don't rock with me. Rock with the evidence. So Kwasi's putting up etymology of slave. This is not Abdullah Bey. Rock with me. With the evidence. So somebody read the evidence. Not Abdullah Bey. You're not rocking with Abdullah Bey. I don't want anybody to rock with me.
One of the people.
Slav.
Go ahead.
Noun. Slav, noun. Quote, one of the people who inhabit most of Eastern Europe, unquote. Late 14th century, Slav, from medieval Latin, Slavis, circa 800, from Byzantine Greek, Slavos, near 580, from a shortening of a Slav, which is probably related to Slavo, word, speech, which suggests the name originally identified a member speech community. Compare Old Church Slavonic, Nemisi, German, related to Nemu, dumb, Greek, heterophonos, foreign, literally of a different voice, and Old English POD, which meant both race and language.
All right, so if you, this is for everyone, is you see in the research that the Slavic people were not transported over here. Yugoslavia, Hungary, the Baltic states, they weren't transported over here. There's no research documentation that the slaves or Slavic people were transported over here. Yeah, once again, don't rock with me. Rock with the evidence.
Islam, Picola here. I just wanted to add that when I first started doing individual research, my own individual research, time reading, hours reading, trying to understand words. This is about 8 years ago. When I applied myself, I began, when people stated stuff to me, I just put pins in it. And then I went back to the research. So often there's questions by the lot of us. However, when one applies themselves, then you can get a better grasp of what's out there, and then you can bring it in to a study group as this, which is awesome. I'm bubbly. I'm completely blown away at the last classes that the brothers have been given. This is perfect. It's perfect. Even the sister, it's perfect for people coming into the knowledge and they want to be discussion. You can get your questions answered, but to ask questions from a position of study to just detangle, it makes sense. Sometimes with new people or are asking questions, it just makes it difficult if you don't have time in to see what the research has been showing you. I mean, it's a lot of reconstruction we're trying to make sense out of, and it's great that we have our own people doing it collectively. And so the question that the brother has asked, I wanted to chime in on that. That has been one of my points of interest, and that is that there is many documents that shows who and what the so-called founding fathers look like. That is definitely a whole nother topic in and of itself. The Slav as being attached to a people, Eastern Europe. And I'm glad that went over that, because I myself had totally forgotten that they didn't bring the slaves over here. They didn't bring the slaves over here, because now I'm coming intelligibly knowing that this is a reconstruction. Slavs or slaves was a people that was situated geographically in a whole nother location. But the act of what people do is now what they constructively call slaves, or the process of what you're doing to somebody. So I just want to put that out there, that I personally have had an interest in it. I may do something in detail with documentation of the various complexions of the early Europeans. And one other note, that one of the brothers brought it up very early, and he asked a question about free white people. In that document, I don't know the source of the document. I believe it's an encyclopedia or some sort, or I don't know, Black Law dictionaries from the 1700s, but it's a source document. I can't requote what that is, but that definition of free white person, if you go maybe halfway down before the end of the definition, it's going to say does not mean Caucasian. It does not mean Caucasian. So we would attribute Caucasian, if you will, to those European countries that are non-Slavic countries. I don't know, Brother Abdullah will make mention of that, but free white persons, it says all of the original people of, and it gives the different European countries that the original people were. And when it gets into somewhat deductive reasoning, that, well, if it don't mean Caucasian, then, oh, that means that those are the indigenous people of that area that were, dark-skinned, melanated people. So anyway, I put that out there. Peace and love. Thanks for the class.
Brother DuPont and then Amanda had their hand.
All right, yes, absolutely.
No, I was Islam. I was just relating to the differentiate from Slav and Moors or Slavic people is you got to go into the Baltic area and do your research on the Baltic area. So when you complete your research on your Baltic area, you'll understand who was the Slavs or the slaves. And as far as the book source of the free white person, you'll find it in the Black Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And it state free white person. So to break down the bloodline of who was a free white person. And I yield the floor. One of the things, I think we need to have a topic to separate the word slave from our ancestors and how it relates to today and how it relate to in past times. We probably need to hold a class on that to separate the two, so everybody have a very clear understanding when they read the term slave and it doesn't relate to us. It's a connotative meaning that's been placed on us, but it doesn't mean us. I yield the floor.
That'd be a powerful topic. That's a good idea.
And that's good. I agree. Shem speaking. I agree that to the
hold on, Shem. Hold on, Shem is Manda, right? Isn't it Manda?
Manda got this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Manda. Then Shem.
Yes, Manda. How you doing, Manda?
Peace, Shem. No,
How
I
you
didn't have
doing?
any. I'm good. I didn't have anything to say though. You guys can continue.
You sure, Amanda? Say what you got to say, Amanda.
Yeah, no, I didn't have anything. I don't know if I
Okay.
raised my hand or something on accident. I apologize.
Now we gotta look at it. We gotta look at a strategy. Why would they take and call a Moors a slave? Because this is called conditioning thinking. Because if they can teach this over a period of 70 to 100 years, and break this into the people, it's called birthright stealing. So now everybody comes along and say, hey, guess what? I'm a descendant of a slave, not a Moor. So now by saying that, you are alienating yourself from your birthright. I'm a descendant of a slave. That means you're from another part of the world. You're not from Madrid, Morocco. So therefore, you just denationalize yourself. You just ripped the quarter of your heritage away. It's all through language, fraud, fictitious, conveying language. Like Abdullah say, language, logistics, genocide. That's what it is. I rest.
Yeah, now I wanted to address the free white person, the comment that was about an hour ago. It was the Naturalization Act of the United States Naturalization Act of 1790 was brought up as a reference to show that when it was first applied to Europeans. And then I had a Kono show that that's not the case. That white was not first applied. The white applies to us, yes. So when was white first applied? 1684, Francois Bonner, fell Division de la Torre. There's no back and forth. That's the evidence. The new division of world. 1790 is not the first time, or 1865. 1865 was not the first time. Nouvelle Division de la Terre. Francois Bonner. Evidence. 1684 was when white was first applied ambiance. The word Caucasian. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, 1770s, constructed a new meaning for the word Caucasian. Classify Albion's Caucasian. That's done by Johann Friedrich Blumenbach in 1770. I yield.
Islam. Well, I appreciate all the value. I'm learning as we doing the study group, just being on. So I appreciate everybody's time and all the value that's been added. We'll be back tomorrow. On the same link with Brother Kono. And so that's all I got for today. The next, so we'll do part 2 of relook of the transatlantic slave trade claim on the second Wednesday of May. On the second Wednesday of May. I got to see how close that other Wednesday is to the conference. It may be one this month that I'm not able to do. I have to see how it falls. But we'll be back the second Wednesday of May. I think, let me look at the calendar real quick. Second Wednesday of May. Yeah, the 8th. So yeah, we'll be back on the 8th, May 8th. And so see you all tomorrow. Continue to spread the word. And let's continue to grow this one mind at a time. All right, peace.
Islam, brother. Peace.
Peace.